Welcome to WEHM All Access, the podcast where we bring you in-depth conversations with the people shaping life right here on Eastern Long Island. Now, every episode, we're going to dive into the stories, the music, and the voices that define our community, from local leaders to the musicians you know and love. And throughout the summer, we're catching up with many of the performers taking the stage at the Great South Bay Music Festival, getting the inside scoop on their music, their journey, and what they're bringing to Patchogue this year. On this episode of WEHM All Access, we're speaking with John and Rob from Ernie and the Band. It's a group built on improvisation, community, and a whole lot of live energy. We get into how they formed, how their sound developed over the years, and what they're bringing to their next Great South Bay Music Festival appearance. Here's our conversation with Ernie and the Band on WEHM All Access. It's EHM All Access for the Great South Bay Music Festival, and looking forward to a whole bunch of different performances this weekend, including Saturday on the Band Shell at 7:20. It's Ernie and the Band, and joining me is John Witt and Rob Seck. John and Rob, how are you?
Good, man. Doing good, yeah.
Thank you for doing this. Excited about this weekend out at the Great South Bay Music Festival, and a chance to kind of learn about all the bands that are performing this year. And I wanted to sit down with you guys and kind of go a little bit over your history. If I'm not mistaken, you guys have done the festival before, a few times.
Yep. Yeah, we did. The first one was back in 2018. We played for the first time. Just feels like a while ago now. And then we took a few years that we didn't play it, and then we came back, and this will be the fourth time now that we're playing it.
Oh, wow, looking forward to this. And only, I think you guys became a band only a year before the Great South Bay Music Festival back in 2017. Now, I have to ask, because I was looking over the roster of everyone in the band, but I also read your webpage. For people that don't know, there is no Ernie in the band, but tell me kind of the philosophy and how this concept emerged for the name of the band and kind of how you guys operate.
Yeah, the whole idea of Ernie and the Band is, we're the band, but we love playing live. That's usually the way that we, enjoy playing the most. We play live as much as we can. So with that in mind, the people that come enjoy the show that aren't in the band are Ernie. So, it's a collective thing. It's not just you go out to see the band. You're in the field of the music. They matter too. They're the Ernie. We're the band. We work together on it.
Where did the name Ernie come from?
John and the Band would be pretty weak, but Ernie's cool,
Well, it's funny. There are a lot of artists that are that name. So it's interesting. I was like, oh, well, I'll get to speak to Ernie. I expected that, and I was a little surprised. But this is a fun concept. What is, to you guys, and for both of you to answer, what does a musical community mean in your own words? Like, what does that mean to each of you?
It's kind of somewhere where, it's really welcoming, which is the biggest thing for us and the Ernie thing. You can go there and you don't have to know anyone's name. Everyone's Ernie. People, you pass around like, oh, Ernie. So the community is the biggest thing, and just that everyone's there to just have a good time, kind of get away from everything that's stressing them out, enjoy music for 4 hours, see their friends, and just have a good time.
And John?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say pretty similar. It's right, the idea of you leave the regular day-to-day world for a little bit, and the community aspect, even just people that have come out to see us that started seeing us in 2017 or 2018 we first started playing. Some of those people still come to see us now and have become great friends with people who started seeing us, a month or two ago when, they saw us for the first time, and now they hang out whether we're playing or not, some of them, but I think that's the music community music. But even if you're not just seeing music, it brought people together that now have, friendships beyond what we are probably even aware of playing,
That makes sense. John and Rob, your musical backgrounds, I'm curious if you can each kind of touch on what kind of shaped the band's direction. Where did each of you come from musically before this band started?
I played guitar since I was youngish, 12, 13, started playing guitar. And then I left for college when I was a senior in high school, still playing, never really in a band. And then went for a semester, wasn't necessarily for me, came home and went to Rob and was like, I'm starting a band and you're playing bass. And that's how this is going to go, basically. We both didn't have too much going on. And then, from there we picked people along the way that some have stayed, some have gone, but the two of us have always been the consistent thing with the band. And then Rob just started playing bass, and basically it was like within a year he was like better than most of the bass players I played with, which was crazy.
What role does improvisation, I imagine, quite a bit play in, especially when the band was first starting out, because you wanted to kind of find your voice and your sound. What role did improvisation take place with this project?
It was kind of like the forefront of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, we had our songs, we were learning songs, but we took from, like, the Dead was a big influence. So we'd get out there, and that's kind of how we, like, really, I feel like, catapulted our playing, like, the kind of meshed us together a lot. By improv, like, on stage, you got to really know everyone's voice. And then you very quickly get to, like, oh, John's playing a little lick, I know where he's going, kind of ideas like that. So, and then that makes, like, when we get out on the stage, we don't really have, like, a set list.
Oh, wow.
So the whole show's kind of improvised in that sense. So it's like, oh, we look out and we want to, party, we want to dance. We're going to improv right into something that's grooving, like, right away. That makes sense.
Certainly. How do you keep those extended jams, like, fresh and unpredictable? How do you keep them new each time?
That's just not trying not to get stuck in any boxes, would be the biggest thing. Like, when you see something happen, and if there's a point that you can do something different, try to do something different,
You mentioned the Dead and their influence on you guys. What other artists did you guys grow up listening to that kind of shaped your musical sound?
I mean, the Allman Brothers were really, really big, but for a long time we played a lot of Beatles. We played David Bowie, not like nonstop. That was like before even the Dead really came over, playing a lot of stuff like that. That's kind of like how we learned to play together, was that stuff. But then, once the Dead came in, it kind of just ate up everything else. I feel like, that was where our brains went to. And, then Fish and Allman Brothers and stuff like that. And Government Mule, honestly, that's, Warren's a big one. So,
how do you guys write? Because obviously with the lyrics and the music coming together, how is that process for the band? Where does an idea start? Where does a song begin?
There's a lot of notes in the Notes app and a lot of long recordings.
And it's usually, typically, for at least probably say like 80-90%, Rob and I will sit, and whether it's just Rob, a lot of times Rob will have an idea, or maybe I'll have an idea, and then we'll just start building off that idea. And, and the other members of the band do contribute a pretty good bit. We have Nick on drums, Ben on keys, and Brady plays percussion. So, as we show them the skeleton of what we'll come up with, they'll add on top of that too.
Is it interesting? I'd imagine you go in kind of knowing everyone's strengths and kind of trying to figure out a part for everyone in these songs. What is that like because you mentioned bringing everyone in, how long does it take to kind of write a song from start to finish?
Man, I mean, it could take, like, some of them really happen fast. Like, some goes from, like, the idea, just like the melody, finding it, to showing the band could take, like, just 2 days. And a big thing, like, we don't really give parts to anyone. So we just come in, show them the skeleton, and right off the bat, we just start playing. And then it's just kind of, feel your way into what feels right. And, if you get a little too into it, and then, we could be like, okay, maybe this part you could do something here. But for the most part, we all just kind of find our way.
I mean, we also have songs too that we started writing like 2-3 years ago, and are still, like, every now and then we'll be like, oh, we gotta work on that one, and we'll start, and then it falls away, so some still are unfinished from years.
Are you guys looking to write and kind of record more and put more, I guess, studio versions of things down?
Yeah, we definitely are. We just did a little recording session to start, get an album started, but it just takes a lot of time to get that stuff going. So, we were like, yeah, we're gonna get in there. Maybe we'll get everything done, and we'll have an album out by Great South Bay. But that not the way it went. But yeah, so we're definitely working on that, actively working on doing that.
Where do you want to take the band? And because you guys have been almost a decade now, where do you see taking this in the future? Because obviously you want to work on new music, but where do you want to, I guess, grow as a band?
As far as we could go, you know, that'd be. We're pretty happy when we're just playing in our practice space, you know. So like, there's no too small by any means, but the bigger the better, you know.
Where does collaboration come in? Because I know you guys are friends with a lot of different bands in the area. What's that like? And what have you? I guess are there a few bands that have been a good influence on you and what kind of work with and collaborate with?
That's a good question. There's so many, and the awesome thing about the type of music that we play and how many other bands there are in like our local area alone that also play them is, you know, we get to have people sit in and play with us, or we play with them, either way, you know, because there's like a collective, you know, almost like jam standards of knowing, you know what I mean, like this Dead song or this Fish song that kind of everybody knows. So we definitely get to play with everyone, you know, any given guitar player, bass player, drummer in the scene, which is, you know, especially 10 years ago when we got to do it, was insane, you know, that it's a kickstart to learning how to play fast. And now it's just like a draw for inspiration. Usually it ends up, like you said, being different from the way that we would just play. You know, you have another guitar player from another band, which is just doubles the excitement, you know.
How do you get ready for, you've done the festival a few times now, how do you get ready for a festival set as opposed to some other shows? So what's the main difference?
The time constraint, you know, because we, you know, if we're playing a 4-hour show and we start a song, and that song could either be, we could jam on it for a minute or 20 minutes. But, you know, at the festival, if we were to jam on something for 20 minutes, that, you know, takes up a real good chunk of your night. So, you know, you want people to hear more than one or two songs. So we got to keep it somewhat in mind of not going too far off. I mean, we're going to go off, but not too far, you know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Coming up Saturday at the Great South Bay Music Festival, Ernie and the Bands. And so how have you watched the concept? You've mentioned where you've got listeners and fans that are a month old and they get along with the ones that have been there for the decade. How has it changed, though? How have you seen it change from the stage with the audience?
People are a lot more willing to dance now than they were when we first started. They would be playing and there was a big open circle that no one, and we actually have a couple specific fans that we thank for it, because they at some point broke the circle and then everybody was way more comfortable. So now newcomers just walk in and see a big dance party and they're ready to get right in it, you know, which we have a couple Ernies to thank for that. We've thanked most of them for sure, but you know.
You guys started literally right before, a couple of years before the pandemic. What was that like as a band, and what kept you guys together through that period?
We were all still playing a lot. We weren't playing out anywhere, you know what I mean? There was no live, but we all had a lot more time on our hands. So there was a lot of practice, individual stuff. A lot of gear was bought. Just buying with music equipment, you know. It definitely didn't tear us apart in the sense of like friendship or anything like that. We were all still in good contact, but yeah, it was definitely weird because we were just starting to play a lot in like 2019, and then all of a sudden it stopped. But
how many shows do you normally do in a month? Because I know you got the festival coming up, but how many gigs is it? Because you guys have other jobs, I'd imagine. How do you kind of process and kind of schedule this whole thing?
I guess as it comes up, we try not to play too much, you know, because if you play in one area too much, then, you know, your crowd gets spaced out. But realistically, if we can spread them out, we'll play twice a weekend, you know, if the allotment works, so maybe 8 times at most, I would say. But that's that would be a pretty hectic month, you know.
What do you guys do during the day as far as other stuff to keep this going?
We both work at the Blue Point Brewery in Patchogue.
Oh, nice. So you get to see a lot of that. Well, it's interesting because I've spoken to a lot of bands and a lot of open mic hosts, and they get to see different talent. How has that job shaped your view of working with other bands and kind of saying, hey, I want to collaborate with this person, or this person's really talented, let's work with them?
Yeah, we're at work and all of our favorite bands play there. So we've gotten to know them probably better from working there than we have from even just, they're walking off as we're walking on stage, or vice versa. The bands play at set break, we hang out, or after work, we end up hanging out with them. It's probably made a huge impact, probably bigger than we often think, so.
Oh, totally. No, thank you very much for the sit down. It's nice to get to know you guys and to see what direction you're taking the band. I can't wait for some new music down the road, and I can't wait to see you perform on Saturday out at the Great South Bay Music Festival. Fourth time there, and I'm sure the set will be nice and fresh. And thank you very much for chatting with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. And we'll see you out there at Shorefront Park in Padjock.